And the next speaker is Shaburnikova Evgenia, Theosophical Society of Russia, project coordinator of the Foundation for the Promotion of Socially Significant and Educational Activities, Theosophy. Ms. Evgenia Mikhailovna Shaburnikova was born in a small Siberian village of Krasnoyarsk territory, Borodino, graduated from the Siberian Institute of Business Management and Psychology, has awarded a bachelor's degree in economics, and worked in this field of culture, municipal administration, coordination of institutions, scientific and methodological work, and social design till now. Member of the Theosophical Society since 2010, Vice President of the Adamant Lodge, coordinator of projects of Theosophy Foundation. And my report, The Secret Doctrine as the Practice of Theosophy. The idea of how this report emerged is based on many questions, suppositions, and experience of work in the theosophical scientific sphere and the regions of the Russian Federation, and on the basis of analytical work of international research seminars. Many participants keep asking why we should even study the Secret Doctrine, why we need these terms, or how we can apply them, because people live well even without them. And today, in the brief report, I would like to touch upon this topic in more details. So, the Secret Doctrine, the Theosophy in practice. In order to practice something, we need to know what does theosophy mean by knowledge. Knowledge is knowledge of the truth. The truth is the cause. The cause is eternity. Eternity is a single inner essence. So, what is finite or transitory cannot be knowledge. Knowledge is the spiritual accumulation that has been collected over many incarnations. And if we once reach the truth of knowledge, the knowledge remains with us forever in all incarnations. We will strive for this truth, for this magnet in every earthly life. Then we will have recognition of what is eternal and what is transitory. We can distinguish between the highest and lowest manifestations of our personality. We can have the necessary attention to notice in ourselves smallest beginnings of selfishness, and egoism. And its selfishness kills at all noble impulses in our nature. Then we can start working on ourselves and get closer to truth, or therefore to the knowledge. And then we can start practicing on learning ourselves, learning our higher me, higher ego, or we can become pure. The higher ego is the immortal essence. HPB says that you need to have books, and the knowledge embedded in them should be applied in practice. This will develop confidence, persuasiveness, and ability to think. In the Secret Doctrine, everything begins with description of the absolute truth. The amount of absolute truth we can able to perceive is determined solely by the degree of proximity of our consciousness to this truth. The absolute truth is the symbol of eternity. Convention is already a known lie. Theosophy is divine knowledge, and such knowledge is the truth. So by knowing, we affirm the truth or the verity and eradicate the lie. The ray of the absolute truth can only be reflected in the pure mirror of its own flame, which is our highest spiritual awareness. Spiritual awareness begins when paradoxes disappear. The main problem in understanding theosophy, and therefore in practice, is the inability to recognize the inner form and the outer form. To have this recognition, one must have knowledge of the inner nature. Unfortunately, the man lives by the ordinary vision and by the external form of knowledge, and therefore perceives everything exactly by external aspects only. But those who have been able to discern the life of their inner being, those who have carefully studied the life in themselves before proceeding to the study and analysis of its manifestation in the outer shell, they are the ones who can expect to understand theosophy or practice. At the beginning of the birth, as HPB describes in the Secret Doctrine, not only animals and birds symbolized cosmic forces in general, but each separate genus of animals and birds represented one differentiation of one of these cosmic forces. During the period of the Earth under review, the open confrontation of two diametrically opposed forces was open, which was due to the inherent desire for domination of each of them over the other, and it all resulted in Fahad manifesting the energy that carried out their mutual adaptation and final combination, thus raising the level of vibration of the substance at the planes on which these forces operate. That is, the power of Fahad caused matter to become more perfect, and the two forces merged together, the centripetal and centrifugal forces. Mahatma Murya says that antagonism of the opposite forces is peculiar only to the lower planes, and on the higher planes they interact successfully because they have this synthesis. According to the Secret Doctrine, we can look a little more at other aspects of this movement towards the joining of opposites. So the struggle of two opposing forces is the struggle between the two selves, the higher manas and the lower manas. The incoming breath of Apana is the fixed mind, the higher manas, the centrifugal force. The outcoming breath is Udana, Prana, or mobile mind, lower manas, centripetal force. Their connection is the vital wind, or the navel, the synthesis point of life. The union of internal and external breathing is life. So that is how Fahad works. In the Secret Doctrine, HPB writes that Fahad has 3, 5, and 7 promotions according to the Dhyan stanzas. It's interesting to know that 3, 5, and 7 promotions of Fahad correspond to third, fifth, and 7th races of humanity. The third one is Agnishvatas, who gave the spark, illuminated humanity with manas. The 5th race is the symbol of the higher manas, when the person should become reasonable. And the 7th race is when the person becomes conscious of thinking, learns to think independently, and then he will create his own image. That is, he will become a creator. Let us see how numbers work. If we combine 3, 5, and 7, we'll get 6. Synthesis of the opposites of the first 3 opens 6 directions of space, within which the open heart shines. As only the heart can contain opposites of internal and external and reveal understanding or light, only it can connect 6 to 7 and start moving the wheel of time into. This knowledge is given in the Secret Doctrine that HPB has dedicated to all true Theosophists. Meaning these directions of space, of Fahad, their generosity, the sunlight, the cause. Second, recognition by the spirit, the planet of Mars, divine dignity, spiritual beginning. Then exaltation of virtue, Jupiter, that is the soul, having joy of the common good. Then the need to turn the wheel of teachings, Venus, rational nature, the cup of wisdom of human consciousness. The 5th direction is the prayer about Nirvana was not achieved so that the teacher does not leave us Mercury and material body or realization. And the 6th direction is non-conceptual works for the benefit of all living beings, moon, wisdom, and deeds of person, a cosmic completeness. The 7th one is the bliss of God, the central point, Saturn, the synthesis, or the number 7. So the 6 directions of space go clockwise, but the idea we would like to dwell on today is the idea of the opposites. If we take that the beginning, the start, falls into the fourth nature in the opposite direction, then we see, according to Kala Chakra, and to light and ray coming, the fourth state of necessity to turn the wheel of teaching, to reveal the consciousness. That is the cup of accumulation, a recognition by spirit or Mars, spiritual nature of person as reason, and implementation of material deeds. So two fall into five. Third direction of space is joy of exaltation of virtue, Jupiter. The hearty nature of person can be implemented in cosmic plane. Here you can see a practical application when person's characteristic and cosmic prototypes have causes and effects all the time. And here is the structure. 6 fall into 4. We have 7. And with the wheel of times, that's the turn. This knowledge is given in the Secret Doctrine, dedicated to all true Theosophists. But it's not in vain that in here we can see the phrase, I dedicate this volume to all true Theosophists, so we can follow HPB and study this fundamental work. Then we'll have something with which we can examine on our lower nature and purify our consciousness and approach by the light of our higher ego, connecting the opposites and becoming aware. But how does it happen? Through mind. The conscious mind is the true life indeed, and life can never be death. The shining light is the soul of the man, and this is life, and there is no way this light can become darkness, only because it really exists, and truly exists. There is only one light that illuminates the human soul, for this is its inner nature. The conscious mind of the man is the elixir of life. HPB provides a description of this state. She tells that the student is at first torn between the two extremes and is confronted with a murderous paradox, the solution of which must first be suffered in order to be understood. In hours of silent meditation, the disciple discovers a quiet corner in the depth of his soul where he can find refuge and escape from his own thoughts and desires, where he can reach the shelter by plunging his consciousness into the depth of his own heart. Initially, it's possible only in solitude and silence. When the disciple improves his ability to enter this abode in the midst of the battle, without losing control of it, when there are all events around, the battle will be won only when silence is established not only in the inner citadel, but also outside it. That it becomes an inner understanding, and only then it will begin to manifest itself outwardly. Leading the attack by now from the depth of inner silence, the disciple realizes that he has already solved the first great paradox. We have looked at various examples of the fact that when the opposites are combined, understanding or light arises, meaning that paradoxes disappear. That's when practice comes in. By this practice or understanding, we prepare form or matter for introducing the next, more perfect race. Just as the nature itself prepares creation of a body of an incarnation of the ego of another epoch, which will not need so much coarse substance to maintain a more perfect physical balance on earth. The Secret Doctrine guides us and gives us the knowledge of eternity, the absolute truth, the knowledge of the imperishable or eternal, the foundation on which we can begin to move towards understanding or towards the light. Light exerts tremendous pressure on all bodies in space. The sacred statement about the nature and functions of light, especially its invisible aspects, tells us that just as wheat, once we know that wheat appeared on Earth, not come from Venus. So now all other forms of germs are constantly transferred from one planet to another by means of light pressure within any solar system. Light does not have any limit. So if we approach the light of inner understanding or the higher ego we have, we become magnets, and then the world changes not only within us, but also outside of us, up to boundlessness, since the light is one, the truth is one, and the cause is one. The main principle of Theosophy, one of them, is the law of correspondence, that is, as above, so below, the great interconnection of the cosmos, nature, and man. It's in the Secret Doctrine that HPB reveals this single cause, so cosmogenesis first, and only then anthropogenesis and theogenesis come. It's the same synthesis. The Secret Doctrine mentions the Pythagorean triangle, which symbolizes the great movement from the single non-form to multiplicity of form. What corresponds to the planes of being or the planes of consciousness connects all the worlds by movement or synthesis. In fact, what is this transition? That is when time shrinks to and there is an instantaneous change in the quality of consciousness. In order for this transition to take place, the primordial energy or the beginning of everything is needed, or a single eternal principle, periodicity, which is movement. Similarity of all things with the universal soul or the beginning. These are the three parts we need. We need two who are united. They are three, and three mean united. It's periodicity, and it all is possible if the three are conjunct. The principles are combined into one, and then we can have three falling into four. The triad will be revealed anyway and will open the secret of movement, no matter what it is. To understand this movement, we use geometry. The Pythagorean corresponds to the three logoi, the first, the second, and the third logos. The three logos are combined and fall fourth state. It's sevenfold state. In key moments of the Secret Doctrine, we can also see numbers of this moment of sevenfold nature. The sum of all Nidanas is based on fourth truth. What does it mean, the sum of Nidanas? 12 Nidanas, their sum is 3, the fourth truth is 4, and the sum is 7. Why does HPB give this interesting number? She doesn't tell anything, she just gave it as a person appears. 113 multiplied by 5 is 565. Let us see how we can put inner understanding of number or life here. What does it mean 11? It's 2. 2 who are equal. 2. What does it mean 3? The 2 give birth to the third. And 5 means they give birth to human being, who is the symbol of 5. And what is human being? He is sevenfold. So 2, 3, 5, and 7. Further, HPB mentions that what does it mean 565? What does it mean? It's 56.5 multiplied by 10. 56.5 means the principles in a person in movement. In movement of cross, they create birth. This cross is spiritual, and birth is the ray. So 10 means ray movement, and internal state of ray is sevenfold. That is how multi-level universe is created. Many projections, therefore, can create a world of solid forms, and in order not to lose it, but to apply it practically, to apply the number that is within it, the number can be can become wider or can shrink. And in this number becoming wider, there is the sense of projection to think of the real form and then to get back to the initial state, practical knowledge about its own creation. So it turns out that the matter, being the abstract notion and substance of over subtle notion in new space, gets formed not only as a solid substance in built-in worlds, but also becoming the form of these worlds. The matter is living, it breathes, just breathe in, and in Pralaya we are, breathe out, the universe lives, and in Manvantara we are, and the matter is waiting for internal bliss. So there is form and non-form, internal and outer, and if it gets together, there is the force of manifestation born. As soon as the three merge into the single state, this 3D state is ready to manifest. So the threefold nature cannot be avoided, as well as truth, because it's fundamental. And in this concept, I'd like to touch upon in the Jubilee year of HPB, was founded the Theosophical Society, this idea of the world brotherhood. In this threefold, what is Theosophy, who is Theosophist, and what is Theosophical Society, according to the three fundamental notions of the Secret Doctrine. There is inner wisdom or Theosophy. This is the inner form. There is Theosophist. It's a subtle form that connects the inner essence of Theosophy in manifestation of the body of consciousness, and the Theosophical Society in external form. If these are three concepts which exist, then there are three qualities of consciousness, minds, that strive for the inner form, the primordial wisdom, and the spark of the spirit that animates the consciousness. And the man, refining and purifying his consciousness, reveals himself more to this light. To do that, it's necessary to know that there is a primordial energy, the single immutable essence, and the inner spiritual essence that exists in any manifested form, only we do not see it because they are too dense in the state of consciousness, in dense energies that cannot be penetrated, or we cannot penetrate and connect all forms. This knowledge is given in the Secret Doctrine, more specifically in the first three stanzas. The second state of consciousness is duality, sensory world, the world of evolution, whether it's mine or not mine, whether it's pleasant or not. And the third form is the most solid one, the outer manifestation, the Theosophical Society. If we're only in that, then we will perceive all processes only through outer form of manifestation without the inner essence, and will not be able to choose this shape, to change this shape. Shape can be changed only from within. We can know all the history of the Theosophical movement, but without knowing Theosophy, we'll not be able to change the shape for the better. And finally, it will be as dense that it will be destructed, because no inner essence will be in that. The human being, Theosophist, can combine this inner and outer Theosophy, Theosophy and Theosophical Society, combine them in. But when? He'll be able to do it when he loses fear, because people are trying to keep themselves from the new test for millennia, and it goes to the new test of what he has, because there were warriors who were cutting their fingers to avoid the battle. And the idea of Theosophists, of the Theosophical Society, is in order not to cut our fingers off, but to fight with our lower nature by changing ourselves. That is when the third state, or the mind, is established, that should be manifested in the outer form. And all contradictions happen because people live in the outer form that is not perfect in its nature and can never be perfect, because it's finite and illusionary. Because estimate and judgments are always there. And this duality of perception doesn't give us any peace, because we assess every situation only through the outer form. But as soon as our mind is as pure that we are allowed to see the initial inner essence, which is light of monad, the higher ego or the teacher inside us, we can combine the inner essence of Theosophy and the outer shape or the Theosophical Society and give life to it. As soon as we live through this light, all opposites and contradictions disappear, because this synthesis gives birth to creativity. It's how the heart works. And then the Theosophical Society will be united organism, the great form and shape for manifesting the initial wisdom of Theosophy. And then we will have joy because of any revealed creative thought we will create and widen our own thought image, because its initial divine wisdom will be in us as the sun. Then it will be purity, the divine mirror, that will shine through us as through the glass by initiating our initial beauty and wisdom. It's said that we should cut off the past, concentrate on the present, and the time will be suppressed, and then we will live. Every day we should be new, ready to accept the new, and then we'll be able to live now in the moment, because our inner essence will be allowed to shine, and it shines only in the present right now, and only when we are immortal. We are in the state of mirroring of the divine mind, and this is possible in Theosophy. Thus, we manifest the three fundamental propositions of the Secret Doctrine, the three aspects of the Absolute. If we don't know the single cause, we will not be able to understand Theosophy or practice it. If we know the cause, then through this prism we can know any sphere of human existence, and will be unusual. This form will be unusual, new, magnetic, directing not only on consciousness of a person, but the higher nature, but also other consciousness, because we are in the same space of thought. Then we'll avoid the main mistakes. First, we'll start ourselves first, not society. Second, we'll understand that changing of external form will not lead to anything. It's impossible to change the internal form by changing the external form. Then, only by changing the internal form, we can change the external form. So it's in the Secret Doctrine said that the movement begins from the inside out. Then we can learn concentration, attention, and mainly connection of the inner and the outer, which is like true life. It means that 7, 1, 2, 3, threefold fall into 4. We have 7, 7 and 10. 10 is form of ray movement. 7 is inner state. How the heart acts, joining two opposite centripetal and centrifugal forms, because for heart is the law of harmony and the law of joining the opposites, where paradoxes disappear. Theosophists must know these laws and act according to them. Then the theosophical knowledge will not be an abstraction or fantasy, because the new cycle has already begun, the new epoch, and the time has come when theosophical knowledge becomes a vital necessity for every person. And if we act according to these laws ourselves, then we will become that magnet or that light. And then we will not need to call anyone strenuously, persuade, discuss, or argue. Then people will see for themselves and will knock on our door and come to us on their own. Our task is just to open the door.